Good morning and welcome to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. I am your pharmacist, Paul White. We're glad you joined us this morning. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Aultman Health System. Today, Brad and I are broadcasting from our administrative offices, and our special guest is Chaplain Joseph Kampert and Aultman Grief Services. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We'd like to remind our listeners today our program will also be available on our podcast. Just look for Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy in your favorite podcast app, and please subscribe to our program. If you have suffered a loss or want to help someone who's grieving, turn to Aultman Grief Services. They offer a variety of free resources to guide you through the grieving process and to let the healing begin.
Okay. Good morning again, Chaplain Kampert. Tell us about yourself and your work with Aultman Grief Services.
Well, I'm a veteran. I'm married, coming up on 45 years, with 3 children, 8 grandchildren. I enjoy traveling and fishing. I'm a chaplain, as you said, at Aultman Health Foundation, and I work with the hospice and palliative teams at the Woodlawn campus and many different nursing homes, and of course, our patients' homes. We have a men's group that I facilitate here that meets once a month at our grief center located at our Woodlawn campus. And we also have a memorial service, a grief holiday workshop with tips that can help navigate around the holidays. We offer a Blue Christmas program that for those that are struggling to celebrate Christmas, and that's coming up December 4th at noon and at 6 o'clock, held at our Woodlawn Chapel. I also write a column in the grief newsletter that is published every other month. So continue to offer our grief services for 13 months after a loved one has passed.
So what is typical grief?
Typical grief is it's a natural way that we can cope with our losses. You know, it affects us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even socially. Please understand that grief is not a disorder, a disease, or a sign of weakness. It's an emotional, physical, and spiritual necessity. When you grieve, you often have intense and endurance feelings of disbelief, shock, despair, sadness, and even guilt. And these all can be very hard to deal with. Even so, these feelings are just a normal part of the healing process. You know, experiencing them is going to allow you to move forward. It's the price that we pay for love. And the only cure for grief that I'm aware of is grieving. Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
What can help someone begin to heal from a grief of a loss?
I think it's support from others is one of the most important parts of healing. And, you know, that support can come from close friends, grief counselors, social workers, and chaplains. Grief support groups are also a big part of it, and other family members. And don't forget your faith community. They could be a big part of it as well.
What about grief around the holiday times?
You know, the holidays can make grieving the death of a loved one even more difficult. The holidays seem to signify time together. And we realize that some family members may not be with us. And I've heard it said the first holiday is kind of like a bad dream. It's almost like a nightmare that you just can't wake up from. And looking back, I think of it as even a blur.
Wow. So I can imagine that Christmas is one of these. What common holidays can trigger grief?
let's say your family comes over for Thanksgiving or Christmas. Most of the time, your friends and family, they don't know if it's okay to mention your loved one's name. And there's so many common triggers, such as Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day. And you know why the rest of the world is celebrating, the grievers are really hurting. And there are also special days for us personally, like birthdays, anniversaries, that also could be very considered triggers.
So, never heard about this before. What is the Griever's Holiday Bill of Rights?
Well, a guy by the name of Bruce Conley came up with 10 points making up the Holiday Bill of Rights. And I'll just read them to you. You have the right to say time out anytime you need to, time to just blow off some steam, or even time to step away from the holidays and start over. You have the right to tell it like it is. When people ask, how are you? You have the right to tell them how you really feel and not just what they want to hear. You have the right to some bah humbug days. You have the right not to be jolly all the time. You're not a bad person just because you don't feel like celebrating or singing Christmas carols all day. You have the right to do things differently. There is no law that says that you always have to do the holidays the same. You have the right to be where you want to be at home or be with relatives or be wherever you choose to be. You have the right to change directions in midstream. Grief at the holidays is unpredictable. You may be all ready to go somewhere or do something. Suddenly, you become overwhelmed with emotions. When that happens, it's okay to change your mind. You have the right to have some fun. Don't be afraid of what others will say if they see you laughing or having a good time. Listen, laughter is every bit as important as tears. You have the right to do things differently, to go to church, open presents, or serve a meal at different times. You have the right to rest, peace, and solitude. Take the time to play, meditate, or recharge your spirit. You don't need to be busy all the time. Take a nap whenever you need one. And the last one is you have the right to do things all different again next year.
So, what are some strategies that may help us with holiday grief?
I think the most important is to be patient with yourself. See, you're in charge of your own grief, so you got to be realistic, be kind, and be gentle to yourself. Plan ahead and maybe even write out a so what list or my personal plan for the holidays. Talk to family, listen to yourself, ask for help when you need it. Sometimes talking to a counselor or a pastor is better than family member. And because see, family sometimes they tell you what they feel you want to hear or need to hear, and they don't want to be hurtful. And sometimes the truth hurts. So take care of yourself physically. Don't be afraid to make changes in traditions. Be careful of overspending. And the thing I'd like to really point out is don't make any drastic changes the first year that you're going through this. Allow yourself to laugh, allow yourself to cry. Share your holidays or help somebody else in need. You know, when we help somebody else, it gets our mind off of things, if not, but just for a moment. Work on depression and or anxiety. Find a way to recognize your loss and honor the life of your loved one.
Can you tell me what the so what list is?
Yeah. So I think if you establish your priorities and then say, so what? To all the other things that there's just not time for, or the things that you don't want to deal with for the holiday season. So what? It shouldn't matter what other people think about you and how you grieve. And the fact that you were doing better, and then somehow it seems like you're right back at the beginning. Listen, you're in charge of your own grief. So what? What other people think about you. In 1969, Kubler-Ross wrote on death and dying, published the 5 stages of grief, introducing the stages as denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. You know, some may begin with even anger and then bargaining and then denial and then start all the process all over again. See, there's no correct order for grieving. There's been many papers published even on the 6th and 7th stages of grief. So what I'm saying is grief is so unique unto yourself. It's not to be compared to anybody else's grief, even though they may have experienced the same loss or a different loss. So you're in charge of your own grief. And the way I look at it is we're influenced by who we are, how we were raised, and our life experiences. So what other people may think or say.
Okay, time for our first break. You are listening to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Hey, welcome back to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Are you ready for vaccine season? Stop in or schedule your flu, pneumonia, COVID, or shingles vaccine online at medshoprx.com.
So before the break, you were kind of talking about the so what list, and I just wanted to interject that, as we travel through life, we often get too consumed with what other people think about us. And I think it's a really good plan to be like, you know what? Sometimes you got to do what's right for you and ignore what other people judge, because what do they know anyway, right? I mean, it's a little random maybe, but I think that's an important lesson for everyone today. All right, let's talk about holidays are coming fast. Somehow next week is Thanksgiving. How do you plan ahead for holidays when you're maybe in a frame of mind that is a challenge?
I think it's important to try to make a plan because you don't know what's going to happen. And so if you take a piece of paper and write up a holiday plan, and maybe here's some ideas that may help you, and you may want to jot some of them down. Maybe something like, I predict the most difficult parts of this holiday season for me is going to be blank. And then maybe make a list of a few people that are your go-to people, your support people that get you, some people that's going to help you. And then maybe on the opposite note, write down some of the most difficult people that you don't want to be around. Some people that just get under your skin or just say the wrong things. And then maybe some things that's going to trigger your grief. And words that would be maybe helpful for me to hear would be blank. So this year I want to include the following traditions in my holiday and maybe write down a few ideas. Whatever you can do to just write a few things down, because once you see them in paper, they become a little bit more real to you. So write them down so you can see it.
All right, let's turn the tables a little bit and talk about if we have a friend or family member that's grieving in the holiday time, how can we support them without maybe being that so what person, if that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. I think what we need to do is don't argue with them, but be supportive of them in the way that they choose to handle the holidays. Nobody knows what they're walking through but them. So offer to help the person, maybe preparing a meal or baking or even cleaning or running a few errands. You can even offer to help them decorate, maybe in the way that they want, of their choosing. Maybe to offer doing some holiday shopping with them. Invite a person maybe to attend a church service with you, and maybe even invite them over to your house for the holidays. Help them maybe prepare holiday cards if they're going to mail some out. Maybe you can help them address some envelopes or something. Just ask them what would be helpful. You know, we don't always have the answers, and we don't know what they're really walking through, but we've got to be supportive of how they see it and what they're doing, and even ask them if they're interested in volunteering with you during the holiday season.
What about children? How can we help children through the holidays?
I think one key is to plan and allow input from other family members. See, children need a lot of support. They need a lot of love and reassurance. So we got to try to keep the routines as normal as possible. And I believe that'll bring stability to the confusing emotions that grief can bring out. We need to try to relax and be present in the moment with the children. They need to know that they're absolutely as special as the one who had died. And some of the things that you have planned to do this season just doesn't get done, give yourself permission to try it again next year. Maybe hang a stocking up in their name and allow everyone to put something special in that stocking that reminds them of him or her. You can even put up a tree and allow them to hang an ornament or something special in their name. Maybe purchase a special candle to represent your loved one and light it on special occasions. Remember that grief is an individual response, as we all grieve in so many different ways.
So, okay, upcoming here is Thanksgiving. What are some ways to handle the first Thanksgiving without a loved one?
I'd like to remind us that if you have a gathering, maybe at Thanksgiving, if you are gathered around maybe either the dining room table or the living room or wherever, if you don't mention their name or bring it up in a comment or a story, sometimes other people is not going to know if it's okay to bring it up because they don't want to be hurtful. They don't want to make it awkward. So by you breaking the ice, so to speak, bringing up their name in a story or just something that might have happened, it kind of gives everybody else permission to talk about that and to share. Some people would consider to have a chair, an empty chair at the table in honor of them, maybe even with their picture there. But I think planning ahead can avoid unnecessary moments of grief. Something like that.
Interesting. Is it okay to celebrate the holidays?
Yes, I think it's okay how you feel about it, whether you feel that not enough time has gone by, you choose not to celebrate the holidays with no decorations, or maybe some decorations, or none at all. So you're in control. So I would ask that you share your feelings with your families so it lets them know that it's either just too much for you right now, or as time goes, you may want to change it up a little bit. You may consider keeping some traditions or keeping the same traditions, but you have to give yourself some time to consider what may work for you. And when you're ready, it's okay to try new traditions. And the next year may bring even other new ideas. So it's all about what you feel in your heart. You'll know when you're ready. So give yourself some more grace and be patient with yourself.
So what about, oh, go ahead.
No, it's all right. Go ahead, Brad.
No, it's fine. I guess just wondering what it means to set healthy boundaries. I'm sure that's different for everybody, but and of course it kind of goes back to, people around you maybe judging you, for lack of a better word, of whether or not you're setting a healthy boundary. So
I think you're absolutely right. Over time, everybody looks back and feels a little self-condemnation. We feel like we should be acting a certain stereotype way. The way other people see us, that's the way we should operate. And see, you can participate or not participate, whatever feels right for you. You may feel pressured to attend a holiday party, a family gathering, a holiday show, or even church. But I would tell you to always drive yourself, if possible. Sometimes we think we're ready to attend an event, and then when we get there, our emotions become overwhelming. But see, you're in control if you drive. If you stay or leave early, you're in control because you drove yourself. Allow yourself time and don't feel pressured into attending anything. It may be helpful to commit to something that sounds like fun while reminding yourself that you don't have to stay the whole time. You can leave whenever. You can leave early. You can opt out of certain things altogether. Finding a balance to engage and not pushing yourself, I feel, is very important. You need to give yourself more grace as you begin to set healthy boundaries.
Okay, it is the bottom of the hour, time for the news. Thanks for joining us this morning on Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Welcome back to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. I'm your host and pharmacist, Paul White. This morning, we were talking to Chaplain Joseph Kampert.
all right. How about we talk about some positive images and memories of the holidays? How can we honor the memories of our loved ones through the holidays?
I think we can consider making them a memorial to honor them, either inside the home or even outside. Something maybe like a flower garden with their favorite flowers, or a special memorial inside the home. You can donate a gift or money in the memory of them. But always remember that your loved one is special and is not to be forgotten. So even if you purchase a memorial candle, you can make time at the table or around even a Christmas tree to tell your favorite story of your loved one. You can make a toast together, or even when you're alone, you can honor them by doing that. Here's an idea. You can even buy or create an advent calendar. You can even put some pictures from December 1st through the 25th of some friends and families of maybe times gone by, just memories. You can plant a tree. See, planting new life to commemorate the meaning of their life that you shared together. You can invite friends, families, and have light and refreshments, and afterwards even have a little ceremony in their honor. You know, Aultman has a new webpage called Lights of Love to honor your loved one. You can do a search by just typing Lights of Love Aultman, and it'll come right up under aultmanfoundation.org. And it gives you an opportunity to hang a wreath in your loved one's name, as Aultman has many different opportunities to honor your loved one in a special way. Because you see, it's always important to honor them in some way. It's their memories, and it's called love. I think the longer we've known them, the longer we've been with them, the more it hurts. The more memories and emotions can becoming very overwhelmed. So just honor them, find a way somehow.
How do we navigate, when you're having grief, like we talked about this morning, how do you navigate that situation of where do you know what feelings are right or wrong to have? And how do you get that lens where maybe you can have the ability to look at yourself and realize that maybe you need some help or you need someone to consult with?
I think when emotions kind of run wild, we never know what to expect. There's so many triggers that can bring emotions to the front, and some we just don't know what to expect. And I think some options may be to tune into our emotions. See, grief don't take a back seat to the holidays. It can often become magnified. So it's important to acknowledge your feelings and not avoid them. To be honest with yourself and don't judge your feelings. You may experience both negative and positive feelings during the holidays. So be kind to yourself and remember that all the feelings can coexist. For example, I can miss the person that I've spent my life with and still try to enjoy the holidays at the same time. It may be tempting to even close yourself in and try to forget the holidays. I think when we're hurting the most, there are times that we feel like we're just living a bad dream and we can't wake up. So if we the anticipating the difficult motions and planning ahead of time will definitely help. When you find it hard to sleep, get out of bed. See, I believe bed is made for sleeping. If you're tossing and turning, and maybe get up and read a chapter or two in a book, or spend some energy. I think if you're not tired, you need to consider that, because we need to take care of ourselves with some exercise, eating right, and sleeping. Our bodies need some self-care. And guess what? You're in charge. So try different things at different times until you find something that works for you.
Where are we at, Brad?
We're up to you in church.
Yeah, over the years, I've heard people who lost someone and were church members with them. They were either afraid or ashamed or whatever to go back to the same church. What options are there?
I tell you, I think really, above all, we need to hold on to our faith. I don't think stepping away from that experience, especially around the holidays, I think music speaks to each one of us differently. And if you find it hard to go back to that church that you've attended for years, because maybe you don't want to deal with some people coming up to you and asking you how you're feeling, or they may not even know that maybe your husband or wife had passed. And you're not ready to deal with all that. I would suggest there are many churches out there of the same faith, whether it's Lutheran, Presbyterian, Catholic, Protestant, it doesn't matter. There's different churches that you can walk in and they don't know your story. You can just simply enjoy the service, the music, maybe whatever the holiday brings out for you and makes it special. So I think you just need to search your heart and keep it real. I've advocated before that you drive yourself, because you may pull into the parking lot and find it very difficult to get out of the car. And good for you, because you made the effort. But if you drive yourself, you're in control. At least you made the effort. So, because see, if you ride with somebody, if they invite you to church and you ride with them, you're going to find it very awkward, because there may be a time that you just want to leave, that you just don't want to deal with it anymore right now. And you can't do that because you rode with somebody. and you don't want to ruin their good time. And, this applies to not only church services, but holiday events, family events, anywhere you go. Again, if you're able to, drive yourself, because that puts you in control. But please, above all, hold on to your faith, because it's very important.
It's interesting. I've been involved in a couple of situations like that. And it is interesting how some people react, like your friend in the church, and they just bowl all over you. And, oh gosh, how are you doing? I understand Howard, passed away or whatever, da 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 da, that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, I'm thinking so many people just don't have the proper tact in a situation like that. Okay.
That's very true. I think society isn't really schooled in that area. They're not really educated on what to say and what not
Yeah.
to say. It's a challenge. And most people, they're not trying to be hurtful when they say different things to you. But unless you've walked through that, you can't begin to understand what that person is different, because grief is so unique unto that person. It's so different. And even though people have a similar experience, it's not the same, because they don't have the same life experiences as that one growing up through it, and what they went through, and how many years they may have been married or together. It's a difficult situation, and it's so unique. And people they say things because they want to be helpful. They don't mean to hurt you. They just want you to be the person that you once were. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It just is. It's been recent that a couple of situations like that arose, and just some people just don't get it. And there are those people who really enjoy going to funerals, and it's just a lot of talk, and it's just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, they'll be a little trying to be helpful. Sometimes, there is no words.
Yeah.
It's okay just not to say nothing, but to be in the moment, to be present with the friends and family that are walking through a difficult time. People think they have to have these magical words that's going to bring so much comfort to them. And,
Yeah.
there is no words at times. And when people just say, oh, they're in a better place, or, oh, they suffered long enough, or, yeah, some of them comments may or may not be helpful, and they may even be hurtful. So I would suggest, think about what you're going to say if you have to say anything, because words, once they're spoken, it's you're trying to be helpful, but again, you don't know what they're going through or expressing, and things can just be hurtful at times. You mean well, but the grieving process has just begun, because I believe grief is love unexpressed. It's the love you had for somebody that you just can't share that with them anymore. And it's all bottling up inside. So again, if you're experiencing some of that, you just got to be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself. And don't listen to some of the rhetoric, some of the comments that people may say to you. They're not trying to be hurtful. They just don't know that any better,
Yeah. Okay. And it's time for a final break. You're listening to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy.
You're listening to News Talk 1480 WHBC and Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy.
Welcome back to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. I am your pharmacist, Paul White. Thank you for joining us. Let's get back to the last segment of the show. So, Pastor, what can we do to take care of ourselves during the holidays?
I think we have to listen to our emotions and what we're going through at that specific time. Grief, just don't take a back seat because the holidays are here. I think the more you acknowledge your feelings and not try to avoid them and being honest with yourself, and most of all, don't judge how you feel. Don't judge your feelings. See, feelings aren't right or wrong. They're simply feelings. It's how you feel in that particular moment in time. And so don't get caught up in trying to figure out if I'm feeling this, is it right for me to feel this way? Is it wrong for me to feel that way? I think we just need to not judge the feelings and maybe even anticipate some difficult moments as we think ahead of what the holidays are going to bring for us. I think just trying to prepare for what you can. There's so many triggers that bring grief on that are unpredictable, but if you can try to plan for the holidays and think how it may work and what you can do to try to anticipate the grief.
Okay. What can we say when people tell us that we just need to move on? And I hear that all the time.
You do.
Okay.
And again, I don't think people are trying to be hurtful when they say that. They just want you to be the person that you once was. They want you to return to the Paul that they once knew, the person that you were. And see, that's not possible because you are forever changed. Your whole world has come down, crashing down into a million pieces, and you just don't know where to begin. Remember that you own your grief. You're in charge of your grief. You're going to have good days and not so good days. There's going to be times that you don't want to get out of bed. So just take the day and stay in bed. See, no one knows what you're truly going through, even if they have lost a loved one. Again, I'm going to say that all grief is unique and to the person walking through it. It's not to be compared to anybody else's. So I would suggest that you be very patient with yourself. And remember, people aren't trying to be intentionally hurtful, but some of the things people say truly can be. And the last comment I'll make on that is, if you feel you're stuck, ask for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, especially to us guys, where we're taught from knee high up, if you fall and scrape your knee, oh, men don't cry, boys don't cry, suck it up, be a man. You know, that's embedded in our heads since childhood and all the way through. But the reality of it is real men do cry. Real men do share their emotions. And it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help or even to have a moment where you're just crying. It could bring peace and a little bit of serenity to yourself.
So what about starting new holiday traditions? Can you comment on that?
Yes, I think starting new traditions, see, it doesn't mean that we have forgotten our loved one by abandoning the old traditions. It may be a new tradition that you start to honor your loved one, something special to honor them. I think whatever feels right this year, it could be something that is mixed with the old tradition and maybe a few new ones. And I do realize the older we get, we see change is a little bit more difficult. Change can become a little bit more work, but the bottom line is you got to be kind, patient, and gentle with yourself and give yourself a little bit more grace.
Okay. One more thing, Brad, if I can. We got two big holidays coming up here, one next week and one Christmas coming up. There's a lot of stress out there in these holidays. So how do we look at these?
How do we look at our holidays coming up? I think the biggest thing is stay in tune with how you're feeling. Don't abandon your feelings. You got to be honest with yourself, because if you push them aside and try to avoid them, it just backs up everything. And for example, I can miss the person and I can still enjoy the holidays at the same time. If we plan ahead, I think that's got to be the most crucial thing that we can try to help ourselves, because we don't know what's going to happen at any given time as we walk through this. So I think keeping it real and talking to your family, telling them how you feel about it. Hey, I'm not ready for this. I don't want to celebrate Christmas this year. I don't want to walk through that. I'm not ready for it. But I think being real and keeping it honest and open with family members, instead of trying to avoid the issue or and try to sidestep the issue by just telling them, oh, I'm okay, and fake your way through. It could be a little hard on you if you're not going to keep it real around the holidays.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap up today?
Yeah. Actually, keep in mind that laughter is just as important as the tears. Don't listen to people and don't try to figure out if they're judging you because you got a smile on your face or you enjoyed maybe a funny holiday movie or something. Our grief services are located at our Compassionate Care Center here at Aultman Woodlawn campus. And that's 2821 Woodlawn in Canton. You can also find us on the web under aultman.org under support services, and then click on to grief. You're going to find a lot of resources there, as well as even reaching out to Beth for more information at 330-479-4835. And remember, we've all heard it said it's better to give than to receive. It kind of makes us feel a little bit better about ourselves. Volunteering can take your mind off of things, whatever you're walking through, to help others. Aultman has many opportunities to be a volunteer, and you can also make a donation in your loved one's name through Lights of Love. Making time to just reach out to people, and don't forget the many, many memories that you have of your loved one, and honor them in some way this year. And don't push that aside and try to bury your emotions or feelings on that. But I do want to say thank you for taking time to tune in, and thank you guys for having me. It's been an honor and a privilege to share this morning.
Okay, thank you very much to our guest, Chaplain Joseph Kampert. If you suspect you have a medical issue, please contact your healthcare provider. Thanks to Aultman Health System and our listeners for joining us on Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Have a healthy week, and we will see you again next Friday right here on News Talk 1480 WHBC. Thank you very much, Chaplain.